Hello world, this is Random Fix. In this video today we're going to be discussing the drive cycle procedure for the Porsche 1996 and newer vehicles. You're going to need one of these Obd2 scanners here, and they're very affordable, under $30. I'll have a link to it, and you want to connect this to your Obd2 port here on your Porsche, and it can be underneath the driver's side footwell area closer to the center console. They hide them under the little covers. I'll show you guys what yours looks like. Once you connect it, you'll get power to it automatically. Then go ahead and turn your ignition on. So your ignition should be on, but your motor should not be running. And the way you can tell is if your check engine light is on with the engine off. You can now go ahead and scan the vehicle, because we're going to need the scanner to verify how well we've done with the drive cycle. And I'm going to show you this in depth and cover exactly what you need to do to get your vehicle to pass. And before we jump into the drive cycle, check out the Smog Tips playlist. And once you click on the playlist, you can actually watch the whole drive cycle in process, where I'm going to show you how to do this on the road. And if you need further assistance on how to understand these inspection monitors, check out this video titled "What to Do to Smog a Car." Hello world, this is Random Fix, and in this video today we're going to be discussing the drive cycle procedure for a Porsche that's 1996 and newer. You want to stay tuned until the end of this video, because I'm going to discuss this in depth with you guys. And before we dive into the drive cycle procedure, we need to learn some basic vocabulary here. And the very first term that we need to understand is Obd2. So Obd2 stands for Onboard Diagnostics Type 2. This came out in 1996. So the connector on your Porsche is going to be found in your driver's side wheel well area that I showed you in the very beginning of the video. And sometimes it's going to be under a cover. It can be near your left foot. It can be next to the shifter. And once you locate the actual port, that port basically enables you to connect a $30 scan tool that I'm going to include in the link down below. And you can pull up the diagnostic trouble codes for most generic DTCs, or diagnostic trouble codes here. And once you find the port, you're going to connect the Obd2 connector there. And on your vehicle, there's going to be two different kinds of trouble codes for the engine. And one is going to be a pending, and the other is going to be a hard set code. A hard set code is one that the vehicle has already verified and it knows that it's there and it's triggered the check engine light. Versus a pending code is one where the vehicle knows that the problem is there, it needs more information, and yet it has not triggered a check engine light. MIL stands for malfunction indicator light, aka the check engine light, service engine light, the service engine soon light. When you're using a Obd2 reader like I showed you guys, on the display next to the monitor, it's going to say OK. When it says OK, basically that means that monitor is complete, it's set, and it's ready. So all these terms mean the same exact thing here. INC is basically short for incomplete, unset, and not ready. And when you see an NA next to one of the monitors on the scan tool, basically that doesn't apply, so go ahead and skip that. And here's 5 monitors for your vehicle here, and that are listed in order. And these are the major monitors. So the very first monitor to normally set is going to be the oxygen sensor heater monitor. And the oxygen sensor heater monitor, in short, basically helps the oxygen sensor get ready faster, so the vehicle can do a better job of controlling the emissions. Then we have the oxygen sensor itself. We have the EGR monitor. We have the CAT monitor, and the CAT layer converter is the part. The CAT on the Obd2 reader is the monitor. We have EVAP, and the evaporative emissions control system basically keeps the gas fumes out of the atmosphere. When you're doing this test, you want to try to go ahead and use a stopwatch because it's going to make it a lot easier to go ahead and time everything out. And some technical parameters that we need to cover. You want to make sure that your check engine light is really off and there's no stored codes in the memory of the vehicle. You want to make sure your vehicle has about 3/4 of a tank of gas, and you can go down to as low as a quarter tank. I do recommend the 3/4 of a tank. While you're doing this procedure, you want to avoid sudden acceleration, sharp turns, and sudden braking. Avoid hills, so find yourself a nice flat open road that you can go ahead and do this procedure on, and avoid peak hours. You want to make sure your vehicle's battery is in good health, and also the charging system. Make sure all the accessories, including the defroster, the lights, everything is off. AC is off. Don't use cruise control while you're doing this test. And the most important technical parameter here is do not exceed 3,000 RPM while you're doing this procedure, or 60 miles an hour for any portion of this. The night before, go ahead and lock up your vehicle and keep your keys far away from the vehicle, because a lot of the newer vehicles actually you can sense the keys, and this can keep the vehicle from completing some of the earlier monitors like the oxygen sensor heater monitor. And here is the drive cycle procedure for the Porsche. And you want to begin off with letting the vehicle start and idle for 2.5 minutes. Don't touch the accelerator. Keep the vehicle in park. If you have a manual transmission, keep it in neutral. Just let the vehicle warm up for that 2.5 minutes. The computer is going to go and test some systems on the vehicle, make sure everything's going well with the oxygen sensor. It's going to check the secondary air injection system as well. And after the 2.5 minutes is up, you want to begin driving by accelerating to speeds of between 20 to 30 miles an hour, and maintain these speeds for 3.5 minutes. And make sure you do not make any stops while you're completing step 2. And this is going to go and check the catalyst for you. On step 3, we're going to go ahead and now increase the speeds to between 40 to 60 miles an hour. Do not exceed that 60 miles an hour or that 3,000 RPM that we covered before. And again, you want to hold that speed for a total of 15 minutes. And this is going to go and check the EVAP system, the oxygen sensors, to make sure everything is switching correctly. In step 4, you want to come to a complete stop. And once you're at a complete stop, you want to go ahead and let the vehicle just idle for 3 minutes. And if you have automatic, you're going to go and let it idle in drive. If you have a manual transmission, you're going to just let it idle in neutral. Step 5, you're going to go ahead and complete steps 2 to 4 one more time. However, there's a variant here on step 4 that I like to do. So go ahead and do step 2 just as normal. You're going to go ahead and complete step 3. And now when you're going and reducing speeds from step 3 to step 4, instead of basically touching the brake on the first cycle, you're going to basically remove your foot off the gas pedal and let it coast to under 20 miles an hour. And once it's under 20 miles an hour, then you want to use the brake to come to a complete stop. Once you come to a complete stop, you're going to let it idle again, just like before in drive. If you have an automatic transmission, and if you have a manual transmission, you're just going to go and let it idle in neutral. Once that 3 minutes is up, your drive cycle is complete. So what you can do is go and turn off the ignition, wait 1 minute, and after 1 minute, you can return on the ignition. So your engine will be off, but the check engine light on the dash is going to be on. That just lets you know that your ignition is on. And you're going to use that Obd2 reader that I showed you in the very beginning of the video. And you're going to scan this again. And when you get back from your test drive, you want to scan it. And if everything is done, it'll say 0 codes incomplete, 7 that are complete, and 4 that don't apply. and 0 codes found. And this is a 100% chance that you're going to go ahead and pass your emissions tests as long as you haven't altered anything on your vehicle and your vehicle passes the visual inspection as well, which I'll cover a little bit later. And based on whatever monitors are unset, you want to focus on the unset monitors. So if your catalytic converter is not set, you want to focus on the steps that actually got the catalytic converter ready. One thing to keep in mind too, I didn't go and update this. Not every Porsche has an EGR, but there's a lot of Audi variants in the Porsche family, such as the Porsche Cayenne. And with the Porsche Cayenne, it's very important to go and make sure that we get that step 4 variant of coasting to under 20 miles an hour and then stopping, because some of those vehicles have an EGR. Here's a little bit more technical information about the Porsche. And in case your monitors are not ready, it is normal, and you may need to complete this 2 to 3 times for this to actually happen and get these monitors ready. Make sure you understand that each vehicle's emission monitors have strict parameters. Try to do as much research as far as the parameters for your vehicle, because these need to be met before the system is going to go ahead and initiate those tests. And sometimes on your Porsche, if the check engine light is not being triggered and your drive cycle is not getting ready, that basically means there's something going on and you need to go and figure out what's happening. So this is going to be a little bit more advanced. So if you're running into this problem, you may have to get professional help. So there is going to be dealers and specialized shops that can help you do this drive cycle here, because they'll go ahead and test it on a dyno. So keep that in mind. And one other thing too with the Porsche drive cycle here is that you can go and try the BMW variant of the drive cycle. So I actually have the BMW drive cycle on the Smog Tips playlist. You guys check that out, and it'll be in the video link below. So if you're having a really hard time getting these monitors set, check out the BMW drive cycle. Hey guys, really quick, if you're finding this video to be helpful and you're enjoying the content, please consider hitting that thumbs up button and subscribing to the channel as well, as it lets YouTube and me know that I'm doing a good job and bringing you guys value content. Thanks. And once your monitors are set, you're ready to now go and get the vehicle smogged. Remember, if your vehicle is a 96 through 99 vehicle, you will have to get the vehicle tested on a dyno at 15 and 25 miles an hour. They're going to use a gas analyzer to test the vehicle's emissions. They're going to test your gas cap. They'll do some other tests, and they're also going to do a visual. Even if you have a 2000 and newer vehicle, they're going to do a visual. But on a 2000 and newer vehicle, they're just going to check for the Obd2 readiness. So they're going to plug in their Obd2 reader into the vehicle from the state and check the monitors. Remember, the visual inspection consists of checking for altered parts like cold air intakes, throttle spacers, cracked vacuum hoses, missing catalytic converters. They're going to do a visual smoke test to make sure that you don't have clouds of smoke coming out the tailpipe. And as of the end of 2020, this is the current rules here for California. And California happens to be one of the stricter states, so you have to check the regulations for your own state. Here in California, if you have a 96 through 99 vehicle, you can have any one monitor show incomplete and still pass. Now, depending on the smog station, they may just go ahead and plug in their Obd2 reader is not connected to the state, see that you have a monitor that's incomplete, and tell you to keep driving, because they don't want anything to come back to them to show that on their record for the shop showing that they passed X amount of vehicles with unset monitors. So if that happens to you, go to another station and If you have a 2000 and newer vehicle, only the EVAP could be unset. And with diesel powered vehicles 98 through 2006, basically all the monitors have to show complete. On newer diesel vehicles 2007 and newer, you can have any two monitors showing complete. And remember, when you're selling a car, it's the seller's responsibility to make sure that they supply the buyer with a smog certificate. And normally there's no way of waiving this requirement unless you're selling to a dealer or dismantler. So even if you write as is on the title, that doesn't really mean anything, because if it goes to court, you're most likely going to lose that suit unless they're a dealer or a dismantler. And if you're a buyer, never buy a vehicle unless all the inspection monitors are ready. And 99% of the times, if the inspection monitors are not ready, is because somebody has erased that check engine light on purpose to cover up an existing issue, whether it's a dealer or a private seller. And 1% of the time is caused by a weak or faulty battery. And if this is the case, you still have to find out why that battery is dying, because you could have a potential short, you could have an alternator. And when there's a bad battery in a vehicle, all kinds of funny things start happening, from smog emissions monitors not getting ready to transmissions acting up, and it's a big list of potential issues. I'm going to show you guys the configuration on a typical four-cylinder vehicle here. And on a typical four-cylinder vehicle, you have two oxygen sensors and one catalytic converter. So here's the vehicle here. This is the engine. And as the exhaust makes it out the engine block through the headers, downpipe, and it will go past this upstream oxygen sensor, which is known as the pre-CAT oxygen sensor. And then the exhaust will go through the catalytic converter here. Then the downstream or post-CAT oxygen sensor will go ahead and get a reading. And the way the computer is able to verify the efficiency of the catalytic converter here is by taking this reading and this reading and comparing them based on the parameters of what the vehicle manufacturer has set up to verify that this in fact is working correctly. And after the emissions pass the downstream oxygen sensor, it goes through a little resonator here, down through the tailpipe, through the muffler, and out to the atmosphere. And here on a 6-cylinder or 8-cylinder, I'm going to show you guys a couple of diagrams down here. On these, you can have 3 or 4 oxygen sensors depending on the setup, and 1 or 2 catalytic converters. So if we look at this diagram right here, this is a V6 motor. So it has a total of 6 cylinders, 3 on one side, 3 on the other side, thus making it a V6 motor. And whatever side cylinder number 1 is located on, that's called bank 1. So if you're dealing with an emissions issue and it tells you that sensor 1 on bank 2 is bad or acting up, you can look at the opposite side of cylinder 1 and know that this is the opposite side. This sensor right here that may potentially need to get replaced. So we have 1, 2, 3 oxygen sensors on this vehicle and 1 catalytic converter. And this too is a V6 motor. The only difference is the cylinder number 1 is located on the lower side here, and this is bank 1, and now this is bank 2. And here on this setup here, this is a V6 motor, and we have a total of 6 cylinders again, 3 on one side, 3 on the other side. But now we have 1, 2, 3, 4 oxygen sensors and 1, 2 catalytic converters. And if it was a V8, it would just have an extra cylinder on each side. And here's my top 8 tips to pass an emissions test. The very first one is going to be, make sure that you smog right the very first time. So if you know your vehicle has an issue, you want to make sure to get that issue fixed before you try to go and smog the vehicle. And you should never really fail an emissions test, because with these simple scan tools, you can verify that all the monitors are ready. And before you go to the station, you can just do a simple plug in and it'll let you know that the car's inspection monitors are ready. And you can do this with confidence, knowing that you're going to go and pass now, because any failed emissions data will get reported to Carfax and AutoCheck, and this can actually reduce the value of your vehicle. Number 2, you want to make sure that the check engine light is off but working. So before you purchase a vehicle, put the key in the ignition and turn it to the very last position and verify that the check engine light is there. And I've seen people actually remove the check engine light. 3, this really helps with those 96 through 99 vehicles. You want to make sure that the tires are properly inflated, as this will lessen the load and will allow the vehicle better operations. The same thing with the oil here. The oil actually contains a lot of the hydrocarbons, and since they're going to be doing a real emissions test using a gas analyzer, you want to make sure you reduce the hydrocarbon numbers here, and this is a simple oil change. And tip 5, you want to go ahead and take the vehicle for a very long test drive before you reach the emission station, and leave the car on if possible before you get it tested with the emissions probe. Tip number 6, use some fuel additives. I personally love the Lucas Oil upper cylinder loop. You'll find a link to this in the video box below, as well as anything else that I showed you guys in the video. Tip number 7, you want to avoid wet weather, and this is not to say that you cannot pass an emissions test with it raining outside. However, you'll just get much better results if the tires are dry. And tip number 8, do not disconnect the battery unless you have a battery saver device set up, and these are about $15. And basically this will keep your car's computer data, your clocks, your radio stations all in sync. And remember, the only real solution oftentimes is to repair or replace the component. So there's no such thing as a miracle in a bottle. But if you're looking for a quick fix for your catalytic converter, just because maybe you don't have the time or money to go and have that issue fixed, I have a couple of videos down in the video box below that cover such products, and I'll give you guys my honest and truthful review of them and some preventative tips here. I love doing everything myself, so if you can try doing some of the simpler repairs yourself, like the engine oil changes, transmission fluids, differentials, changing the filters, the engine air filter, the cabin air filter, the fuel filter, if you clean your throttle body, change the wipers, and do the brakes on your own vehicle. This is such a nice thing to start doing, because the more you learn about a vehicle, the better off you're going to be as far as taking care of it. And what I have found out from my own experience of working on cars over the last 27 years is the time that I actually save doesn't even compare to the amount of money, because a lot of people will go and get their oil changed at the dealer, and that could take 1 hour or 2 hours. Most of the times I'm able to change the oil on my vehicle in under 15 minutes. So not only did I save between 60 to 80 bucks, but I saved myself at least 45 minutes of not having to wait around, and I got it done and I can go move on with my life. Again, if you found this Porsche video to be helpful, please comment down below, as I would really appreciate it. I would love some feedback. Let me know if it worked for you. I myself like to just call it a Porsche, but I know it's a Porsche. And thanks again for checking out the channel. If you guys are new to the channel, go ahead and hit that little subscribe button right here. Check off that little notification icon with the bell, so anytime I post videos that are aimed to save you time and money, that you guys will get notified. Have a great day.